Welcome back to Blondie Reels, the Storyteller. Today I will show you an activity experience crime film from 2016 named Nerve. Spoilers ahead, look out and fare thee well. Venus V. Delmonico, a secondary school senior from Staten Island, signs in on her PC. She opens Spotify, put on music, and browses her email from Cal Art College. She got acknowledged, yet she's questioning whether to go in light of the fact that she would rather not let her mom be on Staten Island. Venus begins composing an email to considerately decline for CalArts. At the point when a notification springs up that her crush, J.P. Guerrero, labeled her in a photograph she took for him. Simultaneously, her companion, Sydney, video calls her. They talk about Venus, CalArt application, and about another internet game called Nerve. Sydney opens up the game in a mechanical voice, clarifies how Nerve resembles Truth or Dare without truth. The robot likewise says that you can play either as a watcher or a player. Sydney is a part of the game as a player and believes it's cool. However, Venus tells her that the game looks crude. Later in the kitchen, Venus discusses college with her mother, Nancy. She hasn't let her mother know that she applied to CalArt. That is the reason Nancy actually figures her little girl will concentrate on Staten Island and that they will be flatmates. Venus proposes to her mother that they lease Mike's room on Airbnb. However, Nancy becomes furious and says, no, Mike is Venus' sibling who died 2 years prior, and both Venus and her mom are as yet managing the misfortune. V is a beginner picture taker, so she goes to the school's football match to take photographs for the school paper. Her companion, Sydney, is a team promoter. Also, before the game beginnings, she requests her companion film her for Nerve. Ends up she has a challenge from the game and needs to show her naked during the match. Everyone is in shock. However, Sydney finishes the dare and wins a couple of bucks simultaneously. Then we see a wide range of dares finished on the Nerve. At the point when you select as a player, the game takes the entirety of your information and realizes what sort of difficulties to send. Mysterious watchers pay to see their cherished players contend to the finals. The watchers can likewise give dares to the players and urge them to film consistently. Venus and Sydney are sitting in a restaurant with their companions. At the point when they begin getting into contention about the game, Sydney affronts V, telling her she generally remains in her usual range of familiarity, so she can't understand the game. She lets V know that in actuality, she's not a player, just a watcher, and dares her to make the initial step with JP and say, hey. V declines the challenge, so Sydney goes to JP herself and finds out if he has a girlfriend. At the point when he discovers that she's really looking for Venus, he says that he's not inspired by V and that she's not his type. Venus is humiliated before everybody, so she leaves the restaurant, returns home, and furiously joins on Nerve as a player. The robot voice from the game clarifies how the two players with the most watchers go to the finale, and afterward clarifies the 3 standards. All challenges should be recorded to be endorsed. A player will get disposed of if they fall flat or bail and narcs get joined. Then, at that point, the game veils for a unique finger impression. As she places the finger on screen, Nerve naturally makes her profile, taking all her data, including ledgers, pictures, and most loved books. She promptly gets a challenge to kiss an outsider in a cafe for $100. V takes one of her closest companion with her, Tommy, who cautions her about the game and says that a few children died as a result of it. Tommy is a PC nerd, so he clarifies that the game can't be halted on the grounds that everyone that logs on turns into another serve. At the point when they show up at the cafe where she should kiss a stranger, V is apprehensive, yet chooses to kiss a person, perusing her beloved book, To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. She goes to the outsider and they begin discussing the book. The person is interested with regards to what will occur in the novel, yet V anxiously kisses him and finishes the challenge. In a moment, she flees and stows away in Tommy's stall, who is shooting the challenge. The strange person vanishes, yet Tommy and V rapidly notice him moving and singing in the cafe. Venus believes he's singing to her, however Tommy clarifies it's all essential for the game. The person, Ian, is playing the game as well. Furthermore, has a challenge very much as she did. Ian completes the dare and sits right close to V and Tommy. Then, at that point, he lets them know how he was perusing To the Lighthouse, since that was a challenge too. While talking, both Ian and Venus get another challenge. They need to go to the city together for $200. Venus is hesitant from the outset. However, she likes Ian and has some good times, so chooses to go. They get on Ian's bike and begin heading toward the city. In the meantime, Sydney is finishing another challenge that she needs to profess to fart on individuals. She's living it up until she discovers that V entered the game as well, and she's quickly acquiring watchers. Simultaneously, Venus is enjoying with Ian. However, they need to head out in different directions since they finished the dare. As she clumsily says her goodbye, she gets a dare to attempt a dress in a costly store. In the meantime, Nancy is confounded in light of the fact that she's getting loads of cash in her account under V's name. Additionally, Tommy is worried about the V's security, so he joins as a watcher and starts watching her feed. In the store, V is living it up. Furthermore, she discovers Ian has a similar dare as her. So they hang out, this time wearing couture, yet as they have a great time, another player, Ty, has a challenge to take their garments from the changing rooms. V and Ian soon notice that their garments are absent. The dress V is wearing expenses more than $2,000, so she begins freezing since she can't manage the cost of it. Considering what continues, the two of them get one more dare to leave the store for $2,500. Since their old garments are gone and they don't have any cash, they should leave without paying. But V sorts out another arrangement. She sees how the challenge doesn't indicate that they need to leave the store with garments on, so they begin running toward the exit in their underwear. At the point when they show up at the bike, they observe the costly garments joined to the handles with receipts. Obviously, one of the watchers purchased the garments for them. Tommy actually presumes the game, so he calls Sydney and discusses V despite her good faith. Sydney learns V is in the best 10 players and gets envious. Tommy likewise gets in touch with one of his programmer companions to get a passkey to a site called Aruba to track down additional with regards to Ian and Nerve. He discovers that Ian was essential for one more series of difficulties in Seattle that finished sadly with a player died. In the meantime, Venus gets another challenge to get a tattoo that Ian picks. Since he recalled her cherished book, he picks a lighthouse. They fire opening up and draw nearer to one another. The watchers like to consider them to be a couple, so they give them another dare. In any case, this one is just difficult. Ian needs to travel blindfolded at 60 miles per hour through New York City and trust V to give him the correct headings, this for $10,000. V would rather not do the dare, yet Ian persuades her to remain. They go on a hazardous experience and figure out how to finish the challenge. At the point when the cash and even kiss toward the end. Soon, they gain an enormous following and become kind of VIP in the Nerve local area. Sydney and V's other companions are at a party watching a live stream of Ian and V shot by different watchers. Sydney gets upset of the fact that she isn't the focal point of consideration any longer. Also during the live stream, Ian begins getting some information about Sydney and she begins slamming her companion. She lets him know that Sydney generally puts her down and uses her to rest easy thinking about her own weaknesses. Ian then proposes they go to the party where Sydney is at so that V can show her how cool she truly is. Venus doesn't have the foggiest idea about she's really being recorded by Ian and that everyone at the party hears her tattling. In the meantime, Nancy calls Tommy and asks him for a valid reason why V isn't returning her calls and for what reason she is getting huge amount of cash in her account. Tommy misleads her by telling her that V is playing on the web poker by which she wins the cash. At the party, no one loves Sydney, particularly after they hear that she's been so unkind to V. So the watchers begin plotting a hazardous dare for her. Before long as she's moving, Sydney's telephone signals, it's another challenge to stroll on a stepping stool starting with one structure, then onto the next. She's drunk, yet at the same time chooses to make it happen. She wants to utilize the consideration from watchers after the outrage with V as she's strolling the stepping stool in high heels. Others at the party are shooting her. She's frightened, yet she can't return as she really wants to finish the dare to remain in the game. Sydney begins strolling on the stepping stool when one person shouts that she needs to film the challenge. If not, it won't count. She takes the mobile from her back pocket and starts recording herself while shaking. Individuals begin hollering and contending with one another with regards to whether or not Sydney needs to film herself. She advises them to stop so she can think, stands up, and keeps on strolling. However, currently on her subsequent advance, she sneaks and her phone drops on the ground. Nerve tells her she bombed the challenge and it disposes of her from the game. Next, we see others fizzling at risky steps. We additionally see a clasp of Tai who's laying on train tracks while the train passes on top of him. Clearly, this person is in it for the success, and also the game is more perilous than we thought. Later, Venus and Ian are passing through the roads of New York City, going to the hotel where the party at. As they go into the room, everyone begins shooting them and taking pictures like they are big names and the watchers' frantic paparazzi. V sees Tommy and waves at him, yet he looks baffled in her. She additionally discovers that Sydney was kicked out from the game, goes to the room to track down her and enters in on Sydney, making out with JP, Venus's crush. Both of them get into a huge battle before everyone and direct harmful sentiments toward one another. Sydney even says that the coolest thing regarding V is her perished sibling. While they are battling, Venus gets one more test to finish Sydney's bombed dare for $15,000. Just to show that she's superior to Sydney, V goes to the stepping stool and strolls it the whole way to the next building. At the point when she finishes the challenge, she gives Sydney a sarcastic gaze and gets a notice that she's presently in first place of the competition. Then, Tommy comes and tells her that Ian began the battle among Sydney and her and that the entire thing was only one challenge for him. V stands up to Ian. He attempts to account for himself, however first attempts to move her away from the watchers who are shooting their each progression. Both of them get into a lift, yet V is truly irate and also isn't keen on what he needs to say. She runs out and attempts to contact the police. Ian tells her not to go on the grounds that the third rule of the game was that narcs get fastens. She observes a cop and starts telling him everything. Little does she has any idea that at the specific second, all the cash from her mom's financial balance disappears. The game punishes V since she disrupted the guideline. Immediately, Tai shows up and apologizes to V prior to smacking her directly upside the head. It was his challenge. After that, V awakens in a capacity unit where a PC clarifies how she should win the finals to leave the game. The robotic voice advises her to go on the Staten Island ship. However, when she leaves the capacity, Ian observes her and starts clarifying how she's currently a prisoner of the game. He tells her that he and Tai played a year ago. During that game, one of their companions passed on. They went to the police, yet no one treated them in a serious way. What's more regrettable is that a while later their life self-destructed. The game punished Tai and Ian for defying the rule, and their families' account got cleared out. Presently, Ian and Tai need to win the last so they can escape the game and return their lives to normal. He tells V that Tai would successfully win. He needs to help her, so he clarifies that he settled on concurrence with the Watchers. He advised them to give him a troublesome dare so he can pound Tai and end up with V in the finals. There he will let her succeed so she can get back to her ordinary life. Yet, V isn't happy with this thought, so she contacts Tommy and requests his assistance. Tommy shows up with Sydney, who apologizes to V. The companions pardon one another, and V clarifies her arrangement. She needs Tommy to change the nerves code and uncover every one of the Watchers' personalities. That way, every one of them will log out and the game will stop. She likewise sends Sydney on a mysterious mission that isn't uncovered until the finish of the film. V then goes on the ship. While Ian is finishing the challenge, he should jump on top of an extremely high structure and dangle from a crane for 5 seconds with just one hand. Ian finishes the challenge and is now headed towards the finale. So is V, who gets a paper pack with a weapon on the ship. The weapon is an entry ticket for the finale. Meanwhile, Nancy finds out with regards to the game and is checking out the live feed. She calls Tommy and he advises her to come into the programmer's cave. V enters inside a stadium that is encircled by the unknown Watchers, every one of whom is wearing masks. Ian shows up in their last challenges to shoot one another. Whoever shoots first dominates the match. Ian advises V to shoot him, however she can't, so no one successes. While all of this is occurring, Tommy is at his programmer companions and Nancy show up. Every one of them is attempting to change the game's code and uncover the unknown Watchers. They are struggling too since plenty of bots is hindering them. Unexpectedly in the ring, Tai shows up with a weapon and he will shoot Ian just to win. V intercedes and addresses the group. She calls them quitters and censures their activities. She asks out if they truly need somebody to pass on for some dumb game. Ty is not in her side. He protects the group and needs to proceed with the challenge. V challenges him to shoot her, so Ty goes to the group and finds out if they endorse. The group begins shouting yes. They additionally get to decide on their phones yes or no, and most watchers answer yes. After the group's ultimate choice is made, Ty shoots V. Meanwhile, her mom is watching everything on a live stream alongside Tommy and Sydney. Ian shouts and goes to V, who is draining and looks oblivious. Out of nowhere, Tommy and the programmers succeed and change the game's code. Everyone's character is uncovered, and every one of the watchers gets a notice that they are associates to kill. The group begins feeling awkward, so individually, everyone signs out and leaves the stadium. As Ty approaches Ian and V gets up. Turns out before the finale, Sydney called Ty and convinced him to take an interest in their arrangement to bring down Nerve. He shot V with a clear, and the blood is fake. The story has a cheerful end. The programmers even return Nancy's cash into her financial balance. V heads out to Cal Arts and is in a glad relationship with Ian. She's additionally still companions with Tommy and Sydney. What's generally significant is that Nerve does not exist anymore. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Keep supporting us, and thanks for watching.